Hi all, this is Eric Thomas, also known as Bekateen. I wanted to make this video to help some people who heard me refer in a recent presentation I gave. I referred to a basket, a fry basket. I use a lot of these particular baskets in my fish room, and some people wanted to know where to buy them, and they also wanted to know how to assemble them, because it is a little kind of tricky along the way, even though it seems really straightforward. So I went out and bought a couple more, and I'm going to show you the assembly and show you places where it can go wrong, and also how to get the most out of it. First of all, before I begin, you can see over my shoulder I actually have a couple of these fry baskets already assembled. I'm going to grab one of them. I'll grab them both. Alright, so these are the fry baskets, and these are the Imagitarium brand net breeders. They're sold at Petco. They're normally about $10 each. By coincidence, right now they happen to be 40% off online. I don't know if they are in the store as well, but online they're only $5.99 each. So if you want to get one, this is a good time to get it. This is the basic basket. What I said in the video that I like about it is that the mesh itself is actually melted into the frame. It's kind of hard to see there. It's melted into the frames. There's no way for the babies to get trapped underneath, and it's a rigid frame structure, so the net doesn't sort of swirl around with the currents in the tank. Another thing I like about the design of the basket, it has these two tubes on the back, and so when it's anchored to the aquarium glass by this suction cup, it can kind of rise and fall. If the water level evaporates, the basket can come down with the water level, so it's not left high and dry, and if you add water, it'll rise back up. It has a little bit of buoyancy, but I'm going to come back to that later, because that's also one of my complaints, is that it doesn't have enough buoyancy. The other thing you'll see on here, and I might as well talk about some of the shortcomings with the basket right now, a couple of design flaws that if I could build it from scratch I would do differently. Two of them are tied together. One is the buoyancy issue. So I would really like it if the top rim of this basket were more buoyant. I've found that this basket, even though it does float on this suspension anchor, tends to sit a little bit low in the water. And I know if you've seen my videos before, you know that my tanks are very turbulent, and so if you've got water splashing around on the water surface, it's very easy for water to come over the top of this, and this can tip a little bit. And this is my second complaint, that it's only anchored by a single suction cup, which can allow the basket to pivot side to side and drop on one side, and that allows the basket to let water come in over the surface and babies can escape out. So if I could fix two things at once, I would make the top rim more buoyant so it sits higher out of the water naturally, independent of being anchored, and two, I would change out this suction cup. I'm not generally a fan of suction cups anyway. I'd probably replace it with magnets, but I would use at least a 2-point anchoring system on the magnet. Ideally, you would have the magnets and this bar anchored below the water level, because you want this thing to be able to rise and fall on its bars as it's designed, like this. You want it to rise and fall with the water level, so you don't want this right up at the top, or else you don't have any flexibility to fall, to go down as the water level drops with evaporation, if you experience any evaporation, or if you're doing a water change and you don't want to mess with the anchoring of this basket. You want to just leave it in place. So ideally you have this anchored further down the bar somewhere so this can rise and fall, but that requires that it be buoyant around the top rim, more buoyant than it is. Now, you'll also see I've got this rather complicated assembly on top. I've got it on this one. It's a little cleaner on this one. And I mentioned this in the video, or in the presentation I gave last week too. Because I'm not a fan of the fact that this doesn't float better, what I will do is I will tie a cord. In this case, these are aquarium tubes. I tie them underneath the bar. In this case, this one goes behind and underneath the bar here, and it comes up above. Whoop, fell down there. It comes up above and it hangs above the basket like this, and then I use this metal paper clip. This is one of those thick binder clips, and I clamp that on the side of the aquarium rim, and then I can pull the tubing or cord, whatever you use, I can pull it through the holes on the clip to basically yank up the basket above the water line. So I don't have to worry about the security or strength of the suction cup, and I don't have to worry about the basket tipping, because now there's 2 points of anchoring, not just one. This basket I did a little bit differently. I actually removed the bars and I looped the aquarium tubing right through this. Again, you could use any cord. You don't have to use aquarium tubing. I just happened to use what is available to me, and I didn't bother to get any other cord. I guess I should have, but this is fine. And you can see again the basket is then tied through the loops of the black clamp, and this would go on the side of the aquarium, and then you can pull the cord tighter to bring the basket up, and you can release some cord to let the basket sink. So anyway, those are my major complaints. I guess I'd say my other complaint is if you use this basket in a tank with plecos, the adult plecos in the tank will actually chew a hole through the bottom of the basket, and to try and get the food that you're feeding the babies that are inside. So I actually apply that plastic mesh, I think it's called plastic canvas, that's used for knitting. I will cut a section and glue it on the bottom of the basket to prevent adult plecos from chewing a hole through the bottom of the basket. I have had them chew through the side on a few occasions, but very rarely. Usually it's through the bottom. One minor complaint I will also have with this product, which I'll mention again during the assembly, is these nets. What I like about them is that they're actually melted into the rim of the basket. And in fact, let me take out, here's another one of the new ones. I'm going to open it up and remove it from the box. So you can see it's melted into the frame to attach it, okay? So that means there's no way for babies to get in between the net and the frame and get trapped there and get hurt. It gives a nice rigid anchoring. The problem is when you go to assemble this, if you happen to press a little bit too hard on the frame and your finger slips, you might punch a hole into the net, and you don't want to do that, obviously. And since that net's anchored there, you're kind of stuck. I've done that once or twice, and the way I solve it is I'll take a little bit of silicone glue and I'll dab it over the tear, and that'll seal that spot, and it works pretty well actually. So let me go ahead. I'm going to reposition the camera, then I'll get all the parts out for this basket and I will assemble it. Okay, we take all the parts out. We see that there are two sides that basically look the same, but there's left and right. There's a bottom that you can recognize. It's a rectangular frame with the net melted to it, and you can see two loops on one side. That's where those vertical poles are going to go through. Now when you assemble this basket, you have to have the net facing into the basket. Where you have this loose net, you can actually see the net is melted or glued into the frame there. I think it's melted actually, heat melted. That has to be facing into the basket, not out of the basket. So this is actually the outside of the basket here, so I'm going to put that down. Here's the lid of the basket. Again, you're going to see those two holes in it, so we need to make sure when we assemble that we point those in the same direction as we do on the base. So when we put the base and the top together, they have to line up like this, not like that. That'll be a problem, so don't do that, okay? Now the other thing I'll point out, when you look at the lid, you'll notice there's a rim that sticks up. That goes up. This is the top. And so the part that doesn't have that rim, which is down underneath here, that's going to face in towards the basket. The other things that come in the package, you're going to find inside when you open this baggie. You're going to find your suction cup bar, and you see it's got the little holes for the tubes to go through it. You're going to find some sprigs, usually four sprigs of fake plant, which is good if you want to use guppies. I use live Java moss. You're going to find two blue poles that go inside the basket, and they have tabs on them which can be used to anchor the fake plants. like so they can be suspended in the middle of the basket. That's kind of cool, but again, I don't use them. You will find 2 hollow tubes that are going to be the sliders on which this suction cup goes. It goes just like, go in there. There we go. It goes like this. And then you'll find a rack of 6 caps. You only need 4 of them. These are going to be the seals on the end of the tubes after you assemble the basket. And it's good to give you a couple of extras, because every once in a while these are molded a little bit loose so they don't fit snugly into the tubes. And every once in a while one will just wear out and fall out, and then you have to replace it. Okay, so let's start assembly. Let's move my junk out of the way here. I'll start by putting the base down. I'm going to take one of the frames, again, just like the side frames, just like with the bottom, the net has to face in. So you can see this is here, it's folded, it hinges, and it's got tabs on it, and these tabs have to fit in the slots on the base. So I'm going to put them in place, and the first thing that everybody tells me when they assemble this is that it doesn't go in easily. So I'm not going to worry about pushing it all the way in, I'm just going to set it there. Then I'm going to take the second side, fold it in accordingly. There we go. And I'm going to put it in place. These 2 sides are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you put on which side, you just have to make sure you assemble them properly. And there we go. So now it's put together, but it's not snapped in place, and if I let go of it, it'll all fly apart. In fact, it's starting to as soon as I let go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the roof. Again, I have to make sure that those holes on the roof are on the same side as on my base. So here they are on my base. So I'm going to put this like this. So I've got my holes at the top on this side here, and I got them at the bottom on the same side. So I'm good. And I'm going to take the time to line this lid up, and I'm going to do this a little bit at a time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down forcefully on one corner, and I can feel the tabs going into the slots, but you don't hear anything snapping. So I'm going to slowly go around side to side to side, and I'm going to do each one of these corners to get them in. And this is where it gets a little difficult, because they don't automatically snap into place. And then I'm going to go to the next corner and do that corner and push down. And then I'm going to go to the last corner and push down. So you haven't heard anything snap, and that is the challenge with these. So all of my corners are pushed in. I'm going to kind of pull this back a little bit. So the whole thing is assembled, but it is not assembled yet. If I let go of it, it'll pop apart. It's not in good structural integrity. So now what I have to do is I have to get those tabs to snap into the slots, you know. So what you're going to see me do now, I'm going to back this away from me a little bit. Let's see how we can do this best. Here we go. Stay, don't fall over. I'm going to grab my fingers on one corner. You can see how I have my thumbs on top, my fingers on the bottom, and I'm going to position them right over just one tab right now. I'm going to push really hard. Snap, snap. I'm going to do it on the next pair beside it. Snap, snap. And then I'm going to go to the next corner and do it again on the next tab. Snap, snap. And the next tab, snap, snap. And in the last corner, snap, snap, and snap. That one already snapped. I didn't hear it snap, but it did. So then you visually inspect each corner to see if there's any gap between the top or the bottom and the sides. And as I look at each corner, they're all securely anchored in. And I'll do another visual inspection. Got to take my glasses off to see well. I'm going to squeeze again on each corner. Oh, there was 2 I didn't get. Look at that. And there's another. So you never quite know how well they went in when you hear the first snap. Look, there's another. And this is why I do it over and over again. I double check. There's one last one. I think that's it. And there we go. Okay, it is done. So this is mostly assembled, but not quite yet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get those blue tabs, where they are here. I'm going to take one off, and I'm going to put it into one of the ends of one of the tubes. Now, I will commend the company for this. When I first started buying these years ago, they were not manufactured properly, so these blue tabs didn't fit snugly in these tubes. They would just fall out. I had to glue every single one of them in. But now they're manufactured a little bit bigger, or maybe the tube is a little narrower, I don't know which. So now they fit pretty snugly and they work well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this into the first hole. It doesn't matter whether you start at the top or the bottom, it does not matter. And I'm only going to go part way in, then I'm going to stop. I'm going to get another blue tab. I'm going to get the other pole, and I'm going to put the blue tab, where's it at? Right there. Put the blue tab onto the pole. Then I'm going to slide this one in about the same distance. All right. So now these poles are part way in, and now I get my suction cup attachment, and I'm going to lay it on my basket with the suction cup facing away from the basket. I'm going to slide it on the first pole, and then on the second I'm going to thread it through there. Then I'm going to push these poles all the way through, and I'm going to thread them through the holes on the other end of the basket. I'm sorry that's not well in focus. Let me back away a little bit. That should make it better. You know what? I sympathize with everyone who makes YouTube videos regularly. It's very difficult to keep everything in focus and have it fit in frame if you're doing it with a cell phone. Especially if you're nearsighted like me and you have to have everything close to you to see, and then you don't have a third arm to hold the camera further away. This right now is being held on a cup mount that I use in my car. So now we get one more tab, and we punch it into this end of this tube and push the two ends of the tube together to finish it snugly. Then we get the other tab, the fourth tab, push it into the top of the other tube, and now my basket is fully assembled, and you can see the bar slides up freely with the suction cup facing out and anchor. As the manufacturer intended, this is now ready to go. But again, there's the issue of the I'm going to move my camera a little bit. There's the issue of the fake plants if you choose to use them. All right, so what you have here are the fake plants. You have 4 strips of fake plant, and you have 2 of these blue bars. And you can push, there's actually 3 tabs on each bar, so you can choose where you put your plants. You can put 2 on each bar, or you can put 3 on one on the other, whatever you want to do. And you'll also notice at the end of each bar there is like a little groove cut in it. And what these are meant to do is to anchor into the basket so that you can use them inside. All right? So let me do this for us here. Okay, for the moment I just laid the plants in the basket with the bar going sideways, but you'll see that the bar does not span the length of the basket because it's not supposed to go that way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other blue pole as a pointer, and you'll notice on the inside margin of the corner uprights there is a rim built into the blue plastic frame that points towards the other side of the frame. So these grooves here will go into that, right? It's right against the edge. I'll put it in, then you can see afterwards. There's one on one side. And one on the other. And you can kind of see how it hooks into that groove there. And then if I turn the basket over so you can see the other side, it hooks into the groove on the other side as well. It does bow out a little bit, and it's going to do that by design. But you can see then across the basket then you have these plants sort of hanging sideways, and you have the other stem, the other blue bar, and the other 2 plants that you can attach if you want. Again and again, you can put them anywhere you want. I'll put these 2 side by side on the stem. And you can either put both bars on the same side of the basket, or you can put them on opposite sides of the basket. It's whatever you want to do. That's a pretty cool feature, although I'm not a big plastic plant person, so again, I just throw live Java moss in there. And it doesn't have to clip tight, it just needs to hang in place. And I happen to put mine at about the same height, but that's what it looks like. Just drop something there. All right, so this basket is completely assembled now. All right, it's ready to go, ready to use if you just want to use it as per the manufacturer. When I use this, as I said, if I'm going to put it in a pleco tank and I think the plecos will chew on the basket from the outside to get to the food of the babies, I will glue a frame of that plastic mesh canvas they use for knitting underneath to protect that. I've already talked about how I improve the anchoring on the side of the basket with this black metal paper clip and tubing or cord looped underneath these bars to hold it in place, and then coming up on the rim of the tank to hold this securely. I'll still use the suction cup because whenever I undo that black paper clip, the suction cup will still allow it in place. Some other things I do when I use this basket is I will leave the basket in the tank even when not in use, and it will grow a couple of things. First of all, the Java moss that's in the basket may actually begin to grow into the mesh. So some of my baskets look like planted tanks where the walls are covered with Java moss, which it doesn't seem to impair the water flow significantly, although I do worry about that a little bit, but the babies seem to do just fine in there. You'll also can get a little bit of algae growing, especially blackbeard algae in my tanks, so if you need to control that, but I tend to let that grow as well. I will often add oak leaves or little pieces of wood or bamboo to these baskets to give the baby something natural to chew on and also to hide under when they're growing. And I may leave babies in this basket, plecos, whiptails, things like that, cories, for 3 to 6 months. I mean, they're getting pretty big, half-inch long fish, and I still leave them in here so I can focus their food on there. Just so the babies aren't having their food thrown into the tank with everyone else and they have to search for it. They find it right in this basket. Let's see, is there anything else I could say about this basket? I've described what I like about it. I described what I don't like about it, the buoyancy and the anchor on the wall and the ability to poke a hole in the net. But it's cheap. I probably have 20 of these things, and I've probably ruined 5 or 6 of them. For $10, or now that they're on sale for $6, they're a good deal. I use plenty of other brands too. But this, because it's available at my local store, I can just go down and buy it the same day. I don't have to wait for it to be shipped to me. And it's not disposable, but it's something I can afford to lose if a fish chews through it. If a fish chews a small hole through it, I'll repair that hole with silicone just like I do if I ever puncture a hole in it. That's it. I think that pretty much summarizes this construction. I hope you find it helpful. If you want to use these baskets, good for you. Now I kind of wish Petco was endorsing me and like giving me free baskets, but they're not. I'm just making this video because several friends have asked me for help building them, mainly on that snapping of the corners, because dang, they can be rather hard to snap. So to all of you, have a wonderful day, good fish keeping, and I hope you have a lot of spawns. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.